Hi, and good morning. My name is Kim Sealing-Smith, and I am the director of MyCriticalPath.com. I was originally trained as an accountant and a management consultant. Yes, I am a recovering accountant. And I worked for 5 years in the accounting and consulting industry. And then I fell into recruitment. And I know we've got some recruiters in the room. I, like so many people, did not wake up one day and say, I want to be a recruitment consultant. Did anybody wake up one day and say, I want to be a recruitment consultant? Oh, there's a couple people in the room. That's fantastic. Well, I was not one of those. I fell into the industry. But it was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me on a professional level, because 15 years in recruiting allowed me to work in 6 different cities in 3 different countries. I worked with thousands of individuals and more thousands of companies, and I really got to look at recruitment and retention under a microscope and learned so much. And now I train, speak, coach, consult professionally in those 2 specific areas, career management and employee retention. I've got some astounding statistics. You probably have read over the last 10 months or so, there have been several studies that show that anywhere from 1/3 to anecdotally up to 60% of your staff are actually looking for work right now. Getting lots of nods, yes. Yes, 60%. So I challenge you to think about your own staff, the staff of the line managers back in your own company. Who's on Seek? Who's on Monster right now? Looking at roles, even while you're here at this conference, learning how to retain them. Pretty scary. Now, we all know why employee retention is so important, so it makes sense. Now, we are in the midst of a 30-year skills shortage. The McKinsey War for Talent called it. And if you look at demographics, you can see what is 2011? What are baby boomers doing in droves in 2011? Retiring, absolutely. And there are just physically are not enough people on the planet to take their place. So if you look at demographics alone, we don't have enough people between now and the year 2020, and I'm even hearing 2028. We don't physically have enough people to take the place of the people that are leaving. Not only that, we're in the midst of a post-industrial revolution. Have you heard of the post-industrial revolution? No? That's because I made it up. But I think it aptly describes what we're going through in the marketplace. You know, the Industrial Revolution, it commoditized blue-collar jobs, didn't it? In the Industrial Revolution, blue-collar workers were trained to do one specific task. They were put on an assembly line and they were trained to do one thing. And then there was somebody else trained to do another thing and another thing and another thing. If the person over here dropped dead, that was okay because they had 10 people behind them waiting to take their place. And because they were trained so specifically, it was low cost and easy to train them. The post-industrial revolution has almost done the opposite. Instead of reducing tasks to the lowest common denominators, what are we doing to these repetitive, redundant tasks? We're automating them, and sometimes we're outsourcing them, aren't we? Now that's exciting because it frees up our staff, it frees us up to do more innovative, strategic work to solve our company's problems. Now, wouldn't you like to do more innovative and strategic work rather than mundane, repetitive work? Isn't that more interesting? Absolutely it is. And it's interesting for our staff as well. Why then is there such a disconnect? If we want them to do this innovative and strategic work, and they want to do the innovative and strategic work, why are so many people leaving? Because, and this is my point, this is what I want to bring home today, the structures and processes that we currently use in our companies must fundamentally change in order to attract and retain the talent that we need to grow our businesses. Now, the first thing that I come up against when I start talking about employee retention, especially from line managers, is it's so hard. You know, it's so hard, especially those pesky Gen Ys. You know, those pesky Gen Ys, what do you do with those guys? It's so hard. And it reminds me of when I was a young management consultant. I joined KPMG because they promised me an overseas secondment when I was working for the company about 2 years. 2 years later, sure enough, they transferred me to Dallas, Texas. I don't think they looked at a map. And when I first got to Dallas, I started working for a gentleman by the name of Steve Canup. And Steve was a rather good-looking man, much better than this man in the slide. Rather good-looking man. But like this man in the slide, Steve was always walking around town with not one, but two Texas blonde bombshells on his arm. Now, this was a bit of a problem for his wife. And when I got to know Steve a little bit better, I sat him down and I said, Steve, help me out here. You're obviously a good-looking guy. You're married, but you have no trouble with the ladies. Why don't you just divorce her? And he said in his best Texas accent, well, you know, I thought about that. But if you calculate all the costs that it would take to get rid of that one and to bring in a new one, because you know I would, and all of the time and effort that I'd have to spend doing it, I just figured it's cheaper to keep her. And it's cheaper to keep them. It's cheaper to keep the employees that you want to keep, your critical staff. So as you can see, 5,000 reasons for people leaving, and they all boil down into 9 or 10. And they can be summarized into people, structure, and processes. And this is what I'm going to be talking about today.